Hi, and welcome to Unite. So excited to have you here. We've had a few prep calls and we've got a good flow going, but I'd like to let you introduce yourself, your role, your organisation to the audience a little bit. I'll start with you, Juliet.
Thank you so much. Juliet Cantamore from David Lloyd clubs. So we have around 130 clubs across 9 markets, the UK and Europe. We have about 11,500 team members and 700,000 members. So quite a good network of people.
Yes, and some great clubs as well.
And some amazing clubs, yes.
Adib.
Sure. Adib Abraham. I'm with American Airlines. I get the privilege of leading brand, advertising, creative, content, and digital, which translates to what we're doing here. Yeah, the remit is big, but I love everything I get to do. It's all the really cool, amazing parts of the airline with large sort of influence over experience and what we can do for team members and for our customers. We have about 130,000 team members. We like to say global. Most of it's in the US, but we are definitely a global company in that regard. And also just wanted to sort of note, you're making us follow Mo. They're talking about how he's using like AI to sort of figure out, string theory and how to harness energy. And I'm trying to figure out how to reverse aging on AI. If anybody's got like the right prompt for that, please share. I'd love to know what that is.
Thanks, Steve.
Kaz, I didn't even say what I did as a job, did I?
No, you didn't,
Sorry.
and it's an amazing job as well.
I am the Group People Director for David Lloyd Clubs, so I have the responsibility for every employee and write the people strategy for the whole organisation, which is a huge job. Take my job very seriously, but try and have a bit of fun along the way.
And you have just won a Best Place to Work award as well. So,
we have just won the Best Place
I'm
award.
going to tap into some
Twice.
of that. Yeah, two in a row, right?
Yeah, 2 in a row.
Yeah. So I want to tap into that because that's actually a big part of this whole session. And so I'm actually a customer of both of your organisations. So I've got a few support questions for you. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Could you imagine?
I can't do upgrades. Can't do upgrades.
Just kidding.
Can't do free memberships.
Yeah. So, wanted to start with a poll, not with support questions. And so we're speaking about customer experiences, great customer experiences. Do you think your employees of your organizations compare their employee experience to your customer experience? So you can access that poll by going in the app. You'll see on the agenda, you've got this session, and you'll be able to vote on that poll. And I will be able to see it on this iPad and describe the results to you.
So like Jeopardy music or something?
It is,
Yeah.
Do you need me to sing?
Yeah,
nobody
that
wants
is exactly.
that.
Yeah,
Nobody
yeah.
wants that.
So we're seeing a few results come in. It's kind of balanced at the moment. It's probably 60% towards yes. Keeps changing. So I'll give it a 30 more seconds, and then I'll kind of call it. Okay, so it kind of seems we're landing on about like 65%. 65% yes, 40% no. I think what's interesting about that, for those that think no, I think I wonder if there's like layers to this, especially because you guys are from premium organizations. And that kind of leads me nicely into my first question, which is for you, Juliet. Do you feel that your employees at David Lloyd have heightened expectations recently because of the level of customer experience that you offer?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said earlier, our organisation is a private members club, so it is a premium offering. Mm-hmm. And with that comes expectations from our team members, because they see how our members are treated and the offering that we give. And not just in our F&B offering, but in our group exercise, in our spa environment. Mm-hmm. So they see that whole experience, and they will ultimately look at that and go, okay, so what about me? Yep. So it's really important that we mirror that. So we look at our team member experience and make sure that we have good career journeys for our team members, exceptional training for them, how our benefits and reward systems work, because that's super important for them because of, as you say, they see the members being treated a certain way, and they want to be treated the same, and rightly so.
Yeah, and one of the terms that comes up around trying to, I guess, bridge that gap is this term of like consumer grade experience, and trying to deliver consumer grade experience in the workplace. Adib, what does that mean to you?
Sure. No. Well, I'll tell you a little bit of a story because I can't never give a short answer to anything. So about 12 years ago, I was gifted with the opportunity to take a very old, archaic, static website for our team members, and they could go in, and it was all muscle memory. Everybody had memorized where everything was. Nothing, search didn't exist, and all the rest of it, right? And our consumer experience, obviously, we were going into the mobile space. We were doing push notifications. So the customer experience was like way up here, as it should be, right?
Yeah.
That's the revenue generator. So you've got to make sure your customer experience is what you're delivering to keep that money flowing. But I was like, okay, well, we should deliver something better than this archaic website. And so we went down this path of, trying to figure out if I can do my banking on a mobile device, if I can get insurance on a mobile device, if I can find every answer known to whatever on a mobile device, why can't I just find the policy for vacation on a mobile device? Mm-hmm. So we went down this path of like about 2 or 3 years of trying to figure out how we got to deliver that experience to our team. And we were very successful in it, right? We launched an incredible product. Mm-hmm. It was, head and shoulders above what they were currently had. But we've lost pace in the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. We've unfortunately not been able to keep up with the pace of investment that we're doing on the consumer side. And I think that's the challenge everybody has from an internal perspective, is the investment is not necessarily as prevalent or as clear, right? It doesn't mean like if I invest $1 for a customer experience piece, I get a 10x return. Mm-hmm. You don't see that on the internal side. It's more like, when we call brand awareness or top of funnel, it's, you need to do it, you just can't measure it.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I guess driving some of that is, actually Emma spoke about it in her keynote yesterday, where she spoke about kind of like, I had to change my style because employee expectations and customer expectations are completely different. Actually, especially when it comes to communication styles and preferences. I know you've done some super engaging work with trying to meet up with those styles and preferences. How are you ensuring your comms are engaging?
Yeah, it's we may be a private members club. And I think sometimes if you look from the outside into David Lloyd clubs, you think we've got this really kind of formal way about ourselves. Yep. But we haven't. From our chairman and our CEO down, our communication style is super informal. Mm-hmm. We do all of our messages in a really informal style. There is no jargon at all in David Lloyd clubs. And I think that's the difference between what somebody sees from the outside and how we behave internally. Mm-hmm. So we do some really good stuff leveraging the platform that we have, which is fantastic, by the way. We do some really informal videos. We make sure that our CEO is available, and he does some engaging videos, and he can communicate direct to our team members. Mm-hmm. We use podcasts a lot, whether that be video or audio. Yeah,
that's interesting, because I actually think that like when it comes to video, I feel like everyone's jumped on a trend of let's just do like a CEO vlog, because that's like a checkbox activity. But what's the difference between like checking the video or audio box and like ensuring that content is genuinely good?
Oh no, look, we don't sit our CEO down and go, right, we're going to do this whole formal video with you today, and this is what you're going to say, and it's all very scripted. Our CEO will be in one of our clubs, and in the moment he'll think, I'm going to talk to our people.
Sick.
That's what I'm going to do.
Yep.
I'm going to get my mobile out, and he does all his videos on mobile, and he'll just hold it in front of him, and he'll do this great engaging video, and he'll do a tour of the club, and he may talk about, I don't know, something he's had for dinner last night or something like that, but it's super informal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's really cool, and I think that's the difference. It's not just trying to keep up for the sake of it.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
No, we don't put things in his diary to say tomorrow you're doing a video.
That style of a leader, I think, is pretty cool. And so that's great.
Yeah. Well, I'll just jump in. I mean, I think, one, I'm jealous, right? Like, I think that's awesome that you have a CEO that's going to whip out a mobile device and start being super engaging and all the rest of it. I think it also depends on your culture and what you like, what your leadership is capable of doing. And so we We also, accessibility is really more our piece of that. We want to make sure that our leadership is visible, that we're doing things that allows them to kind of connect with the team members. That's really important to us.
What sort
None
of
of
things?
them, I'm sorry?
What sort of things?
Yeah, so we're not, we are very formal, right? So we do a lot of, we'll do like, everybody's obsessed with live. I don't know what it is. Like, so we do a State of the Airline every quarter where we live broadcast the entire sort of hour and a half of like update on the airline, how we're doing financially, and then we do a Q&A session. It is sent to every single person. Everybody gets access to it. And that seems to work really, really well. People love that. They show up in person, and then they'll also log in. We do have a couple of different, like we tried some things. We've got an award-winning vodcast. We've won awards for it's called Tell Me Why. It's in its 7th year. It's the most popular thing. But that was just more of a more organic and sort of raw approach to it. It wasn't buttoned up. It was 3 questions. We didn't record. We didn't have any we did a one take. So if there was mistakes in it, we still let it go. It was kind of groundbreaking for us 7 years ago. But we're nowhere near the level of like self delivery. We have to sort of still button ourselves up and kind of make sure we're coordinating it on the back end.
I'm anticipating an audience question around how do you start to bring that leader on that journey?
Some leaders are like, it's a good question, right? Not everybody's capable of it. So you have to sort of pick the experience or pick the comms initiative in line with the personality of the person, right? So if like, that's why we picked our chief communications officer to do Tell Me Why, because he was very comfortable in front of a camera and could do it. Our CEO is incredible in front of a team. So we put him in front of the team, but then we record it or live stream it. If we put him in front of a camera in a room with no people, probably not going to get the right outcome, right? So you got to sort of pick your channel or your approach for that personality.
Yeah, and so we've spoken a little bit about, we've spoken about EX, and of course we've got CX in this panel, customer experience. And what role do you think internal communication really plays in improving your customer experience? I'll start with you.
Oh, me? Okay. Sure. So we actually had an internal and external sort of communications groups years ago. And then after we merged in 2012, we did away with that. So we just basically said, if you're a communicator, you have a beat. So if you were responsible for ops, or you're responsible for crisis, or you're responsible for customer experience, your audiences were like media, customer, and then team members. So you were crafting your message to be, relevant to any of those 3 audiences. And there's nuances in how you pick your words and how you speak and what channels you use to sort of get that message across with that particular group. And so when you think of the influence, though, that is the incredible part of like that initiative or that approach. We no longer are creating our own weather because of this, right? So we'll coordinate, and we have this full approach to making sure that we're not, if there's a hurricane going on, that we're not sending you an offer to go to Florida, right? Like it's that whole idea of like, if comms has taken a really big piece of influence on how we send out customer messaging. And so I think that's the best outcome that I can sort of articulate at this moment. We're still in the infancy of it. We're working through like getting to the utopic sort of approach with 360.
That concept of the kind of external commsy way of that kind of like beat mentality and thinking about it more holistically from a communication perspective seems to be a bit of a trend. I know sometimes it's a bit of a cycle. I think people started there, went in a slightly different direction, and then seems to be coming back around. So what about digital? So, of course, increasingly, I've got the American Airlines app. I've obviously, it's a big part of the way I consume and interact with an organization. And that's kind of how I start to differentiate who I want to be a customer of based on their kind of digital experiences. But what does best-in-class digital employee experience look like to you, Mr. Digital?
Oh, me? Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, don't ask me.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting that you pick your brand based off of the digital experience. So that's fascinating to me. I love that. And stuff that Mo had said around connection really resonated, and it started making me think. We're on this like self-service journey, right? We want to put everything in the customer or the team member's hand to self-serve, and we're losing that connection. And so every time we do a comm survey, no one comes back and says, I want the website to be more, efficient or fast, or I'd like search to be better. I mean, they do say that, but that's not their number one thing.
Yeah.
What they always tell us is, I want to get my information from my manager or my supervisor.
Yeah.
And so you realize that there's still this hunger for human interaction or this human connection. That wasn't the question you asked in terms
No, but
of
it's actually a fair point.
Right, but so ideally though, again, I think Travis is in the crowd here. He'll attest to this. I wanted this incredible sort of experience where every team member would download whatever the app was for internal comms, and it would just know where you were. You turned on your notifications, you turned on your location services, and you would walk into, if you're a flight attendant, you might be off for a week or so. So you walk in, and the second you hit the airport, you get a little push notification that says, hey, Susie, we've missed you. Here's 5 things that have happened since you've been gone, or there's an update to a policy. So it's really personalized. So my 3 tenets are always simple, right? Is it easy to use? Can I navigate it well? Can I get it on my phone easily enough? Personalization, right? Because does it speak to me? Because we're all divided by me. Right? Most people, anyone, I have to toe the company line. Of course, I want to know everything that's going on at the company. But really what I want is, what is my role in that, right? What do I have to be responsible for? And then, of course, relevant, right?
Yeah.
So talking about a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter to me is probably not going to hit the right note.
And actually, I think that was the perfect way to answer the question, because actually it's not about looking at digital in a vacuum or in a separate box. It's actually about, and this theme came up yesterday, it's not about addition, it's sometimes about subtraction. How can you strip away the complexity, quiet the noise, improve the relevancy with targeting and personalization? And so it's not about being like, hey, we need the best digital for this purpose. It's about, can the digital help us simplify and strip it back? Julia, I know you have in David Lloyd, you've got a lot of roles that are customer facing, doing customer experience roles. Of course, digital is a big part of that, but how do you kind of get the right balance of digital and kind of in-person interaction?
I would say that the 90% of our workforce are frontline team members.
Yeah.
And 58% of those team members are aged between 18 and 25. So it's really important for them that they have easy access to relevant data and engaging communications in the moment, because we know that demographic of workforce is all about in the moment communication. So we make sure that they are up to date, as relevant as possible in the moment. But we also have a lot of users that are in our what we call club support. So they're in our head office. So they would use our desktop functionality for that, which is more kind of intranet based. So from a relevance, was the question relevance of communication? Sorry,
kind of like balance of that's interesting around the stat around the workforce that you have, because actually that kind of dictates a greater need for digital and starts to dictate some of the communication style and preferences. That's really interesting. I didn't actually know that. But kind of so Adib raised the point of in-person interaction, and of course the importance of the manager, for example. How do you kind of balance ensuring that, yes, you've got that best-in-class digital, but you of course want that in-person interaction as well with managers?
Most of the clubs that we own would have between around 60 to 130 team members in each club. So the manager has a huge responsibility to engage and develop those team members in person, face to face. So what we do, we have sessions, we call them 10 at 10s. So at 10 o'clock in the day, for 10 minutes, the general manager would stand up and do a bit of a kind of state of the nation. We're going to do an in-person moment. I'm going to tell you what's happening in the club. I'm going to talk to you about the members. I'm going to talk to you about the things that have gone wrong in the club, what maintenance needs fixing, so all our members are really up to date. So we make sure we do that a lot. We do a lot of conferences as well, so they're always in person. So our regional managers would do in-person conferences. So we've got a really good balance of tech versus in-person, which we're really comfortable with.
Yeah. Cool. And I guess that in-person interaction is, of course, it hinges on digital, but of course, in order for it to do its best job, you need the right culture behind it. How do you make sure that your culture is in line with or kind of matching the technology that you have?
We live everything that we do by our values. And I think a lot of organisations can say we've got really great values, but leading by them and making a decision through the lens of your values is really important. And we're in a really good place that we have 6 really strong values. Everybody knows what they are, and everybody knows what the behaviours are associated to those values.
Do you do some kind of like behaviour? That's interesting, because we spoke a little bit about values yesterday, but it's not about the value itself, it's about the layers below it.
It is.
Can you tell me a bit about that?
It is. It's definitely about the behaviours. So we have, for argument's sake, we have a value called freedom to succeed. And that is all about, actually, if you're running one of our clubs, you have got the freedom to make the decisions that you think right for our team members and our members. We don't have a rigidity approach in our organisation, so anybody can make a decision. And we have this really great style about, actually, if it goes wrong, it goes wrong. And that's okay, right?
Yeah.
Because if something goes wrong, nobody's going to kind of come after you and beat you up with a stick and go, oh, God, never do that again. It's about what did you learn from that?
Yeah.
So that culture is definitely, and that comes down from our chairman, our CEO, and also from our owning and operating partner as well.
Yeah. And I think that's great. I think that forms to the point around transparency as well. Kind of like not creating this rigid value structure that means that it's cult-like. It's actually about the learning experience and encouraging people in the right direction.
It is, absolutely.
There's a few things that I've heard throughout this panel. For example, we spoke about like different like core engaging communication. You mentioned targeting and personalization. When I hear some of these terms, I think marketing. That's actually can sometimes be a bit of a controversial term to use in the context of EX. Adib, do you apply a marketing mindset?
Oh, well, what a great question. No, it's actually something I've been working on for years, right? So when I first, I never was supposed to be a comms person. I was a marketing person, and I came to comms under brand modernizations. And when we went from what was previous brand to what you see today, I was a big part of that team. In order to drive it and lead it, it was happening not necessarily in the marketing space, it was happening, oddly enough, in the communication space. So that was my move there. But then I started sort of realizing I had this unique opportunity to start helping our corporate communications folks stop speaking in such a rigid and cold and fact-based way. So when you look at the way when you do marketing messaging, it's about the value prop, it's about creating emotion, it's about demonstrating to the individual who's receiving that message, what can I feel from it? Whereas if you're a corporate communications person, it's about, I'm going to give you 5 facts, and then you're going to walk away and do something with those 5 facts, either write an article or change an opinion. Both are valid, but the marketing mindset is when you apply it to internal comms, you are figuring out how to help team members process why we're telling you this and what matters to them in that message and why they should be listening. And I think it's actually been quite successful. We even sort of just taken all of our we picked up marketing out of the commercial organization and moved it to corporate communications. And so now it's a true global engagement organization where marketing and comms are one. And we've also brought in people. So what we say we're going to do and what we are actually doing all match, which is a really nice approach. And I'm quite proud of us for doing that.
Yeah.
In case they're watching at home, I have to say.
Yeah. Check. And I actually want to hit the point on this panel very directly, which is around kind of EX and CX. I think across the sessions we've had so far, and actually last year as well, and the people in the room believe these things are linked, right? But quite literally, how do you think they are linked? I'll start with you, Juliet. How is your EX driving your great CX?
So if you look at us, if I look at the data points that we've got from an evidence point of view, so our employee engagement is at 87%, which for an organisation our size and the complexity that comes with it is pretty impressive. And then if you look at our member experience, it's about 84.5%. And
it was quite literally.
Yeah, quite literally. And our team retention is below 30%. So you can see the data points, and we measure those data points and go, actually, are our team members staying with us? Are they getting a great experience? And then what's the output from a member experience? And that's how we look at it. And we track that very, regularly. And when we see those data points changing, we go, actually, there's something going on in all 3 areas.
Yeah.
because it normally is. Yeah.
That's very cool. I'm going to come back to that. Adib, what about you at American Airlines?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think what Mo said earlier about a company can't make you happy. We can only take the things that make you unhappy out of the equation.
Yep.
That really resonated, and I think we have a similar. So that's my mindset around this, right? When I think of, it's that triangle of you take care of your team members, they'll take care of your customers, who then take care of your shareholders, type of thing, right? It's that cyclical thing, and we do adopt that philosophy, and so we do a lot of things at our company to make people feel valued, to make people feel taken care of. I mean, the things we do in flight and with our pilot group and the sort of programs that we have from a benefits perspective. So we don't measure it, unfortunately. We moved away from doing that because what we were realizing was when we did measure it, it was whatever was happening in that moment in time. And since we are definitely a unionized organization, like every one of our work groups is unionized, depending on where you're at with a labor negotiation or a contract negotiation, could influence how those responses came back. And so the data wasn't really helping. So we just said, okay, well, let's take the data piece out of it. We intrinsically know we need to be good leaders, good stewards of our brand and our values, and just make sure that each person is experiencing them to whatever extent we can, and then it'll show up in other ways. And you'll start seeing that now with like all of the different things we're unfolding in terms of the customer experience.
Okay, cool, nice. And you mentioned that kind of like pilot group there. What sort of things are you doing?
Oh, I'm sorry. The pilots. The
literal
pilots.
pilots.
Yeah. I'm in the UK. I got to be careful with the words I choose. The literal pilots. We're not doing anything from a pilot group perspective.
Okay, so we mentioned actually at the beginning we spoke about those data points are pretty cool because one of the things about getting that good measurement is it does help you articulate a strong story in that area, especially when it comes to Best Place to Work awards.
Yes.
And you're now in your second year in a row winning that at David and Lloyd.
Best places to work. Yeah.
I'm sure there are some people in the audience that are striving for that. What tips would you give them to help them get there?
Oh, okay.
You're not taking your spot.
Oh God, yeah. No, look, there's probably so many I could say. The first thing I'd say is that Best Places to Work is a survey that goes out to employees. So as an organisation, from a leadership point of view, we don't touch that survey. So we don't incentivise that survey. It just goes straight out from Best Places and we don't touch it. So for us, it's a really authentic way to measure how our team members feel because there's no input from us at all. Which is the first thing that I'd say. The second thing is, over the last 2 years since we've won that award consecutively, we've done so much in the people space. And I'd say so much in the people space, especially from a DE&I point of view. A lot of the work that Best Places do is centred around that sense of belonging. And we went out 2 years ago to our organisation to say the most important thing that we want to achieve is a sense of belonging. We want people to show up in our organisation being their true, authentic selves. So we did a lot of work around that. So we put a whole DE&I strategy and plan in place. We really moved the people team around to kind of facilitate that. And we put inclusion resource groups in place to really make our team members feel that they belong. So that was the second thing we did. The third thing I'd say is that how people feel about their benefits and how they're rewarded is super important. And it's not just about a thank you in the moment, albeit that is really important because everybody wants to feel praised and recognised for the job that they do. But it's about the benefits that are associated with that as well. So whether that be free member passes for our clubs or associate member passes for our clubs or something that's really personal for them. So we do a lot of personalisation recognition as well. And we also do a really great big trip every year. So we take 180 team members on a big trip to a 5-star all-inclusive destination, which is usually a long-haul destination. So we do some big stuff for them. But also the training that is associated in the business. So we were a kind of an organisation where everything was just a bit online learning, and we'd put people in front of laptops and they do their online learning, and it was just like painful. And also there was no translatability. So our team members in our European markets would do online learning, and they'd go, well, this is great for somebody that lives in England. I don't understand what's happening here. So we did a lot of work, especially with AI, about how do we translate the learning interventions that we've got in place. So we did a hybrid approach from, in-person learning that we now do now, and also online.
Yeah.
But I could just sit here for ages talking about how we did that. But our whole people strategy over the next 5 years is about how do we be the best employer that we absolutely can be, and how do we create a sense of belonging.
Yeah. It seems like you've really come in and kind of led from the front, reset the people experience strategy and kind of designed it from the inside out. And that's
absolutely.
Kind of like, it's not just one tweak here or one tweak there.
And I think the other thing to say is we do engagement surveys, which every other organisation does. We do 2 engagement surveys a year, but for us that's a kind of one moment in time. It's usually about how the person feels in that moment, if they had a bad day, good day, indifferent day. So we do a lot of listening groups as well. And I think our authentic style and our informal style really helps that.
Love that. I'm going to get ready to go to audience Q&A because I can see a few coming in here.
This is terrifying.
Yeah.
Here we go.
One final question for me, because I can see a few more coming in. What's the best advice you've ever received as an employee experience leader? Adib, I'll start with you.
Okay. I've received so much advice. People just love to give me advice. So, or it's less advice and more. It was a statement that was made that kind of had me like take a step back, and it was, culture is neither good or bad. It just is, right? And I was like, wait a minute. That was really sort of groundbreaking for me in that moment, because I was like, oh, there's nothing that a company can actually. There's not like a program they can put in place. You have to kind of just put the guardrails out there, and then everybody sort of works within those guardrails, and then the culture kind of just permeates or happens from there. So less advice and more of a statement that made me take a step back.
Interesting.
Sorry, I didn't.
No. I mean, that does. That thought in itself is, I guess, the feedback advice.
Mine would definitely be, and I still remember it now, it's from a previous CEO, and he said to me, Juliet, just listen and then lead. And that just followed me all the way through my career. Listen to what your team members are saying and then lead them. Yeah. And it's so true, isn't it?
Yeah, it is so true. And I think it's always, back in my consulting days, I remember like going into different organizations and sometimes feeling when the leader was always speak first and how that would always change the outcome, usually in a negative direction. And so that sort of like mentality of like listening, hearing, actually it's exactly what Mo said earlier, the difference between managers and leaders. So what a perfect way to kind of bring that full circle. Thank you, Julia. So let's go to our audience Q&A. The first one is from Danielle. Hi, Danielle, somewhere here. So it says, we really struggle with leadership visibility. I love the informal comms style of leadership at David Lloyd. How would you encourage this with board members who insist on a more formulaic style and script?
Yeah, that's interesting actually, because it's one thing that we don't struggle with that, but actually, to be fair, in parts maybe we do.
Yep.
And that comes from a place of the person feeling a bit insecure and a bit nervous about being informal, because when you are a board member, there are things you can and can't say, and that's, we are, we're owned private equity, so there are things we just can't say. And I think we can get so wrapped up in not being authentic, and that's the word that we kind of lead with. But, our head of communications who's sat in the audience just here, he's fantastic at getting those leaders and those board members in a place where I'm going to give you a broad kind of script, but don't read it word by word. You're going to be absolutely fine. And it just takes practice. And, we're often giggling away to ourselves that sometimes it just isn't right, but that's okay. We'll get it right in the end.
Yeah. Nice. And moving on to our second question from Stephanie. Loved hearing about the balance between digital and in-person events. In a very digital / working from home world, what works well for David Lloyd and American Airlines to ensure the in-person events and celebrations help improve overall EX, loyalty, and culture? Big question. Feel free to take a breath.
I'll take a stab at this.
You
See.
go.
Stephanie, what a great question. Who are no? So it's a little bit odd because American actually just recently, or not recently, a couple of years back, we went to what we call full-time with flexibility. So we are 5 days a week in office for the management and support staff. Obviously, the folks on the front line are going to an airport, getting on an airplane every day. Their world never changed, right? It's always been this way. So in terms of like, that's I think why people are so, I say obsessed. I'm those people. We're obsessed with like live streaming and making sure that we make whatever we do physically. So if we're doing a state of the airline or we're doing some type of virtual leadership conference, we will always give like a component where people can either sign in real time, catch it on the back end and in terms of a recording, or and some type of feedback loop, right? We're really big on Q&A, live Q&A, on the fly. We do preheat. I mean, I don't think any organization is just going to blindly go into a situation where they don't have any questions already sort of baked, but we do make a really concentrated effort to kind of throw curveball questions, right? Because we wanted to make sure that people, if they're going to tune in, they're going to take the time out, that we are actually listening and answering those questions that they have. And it's not just like, tell us what you're going to serve online. You know, it's more actual real questions.
Yeah. And I also think that when you put the thought behind the event, digital or in person, kind of creating like an on-demand culture where like there isn't it's just happening here and now for these people, but actually comes back to the D&I conversation, understanding that like workday does look and feel different. It happens at different times and everyone has different styles and preferences, and we need to accommodate for that with some of the digital stuff as well. So, question here from Jason. Hi, Jason. What is the biggest misconception with the link between customer experience and employee experience? That's a really tough one. I actually don't know how to answer that, but I'm hoping one of you will.
Can you repeat? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What is the biggest misconception with the link between customer experience and employee experience?
Oh, God, that's a tough one.
It is a tough one. It's highly rated, though, so people want to know the answer.
It's highly rated.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, I see this crowd. Okay, I get you.
I've got it out for you, Dee.
Sweating.
Yeah.
I think that, like, for me, the misconception is, I got to be careful. It's a safe space, right? I know, like, like we look, rightfully so. We've got this big push to self-serve, right? Society today does not want to talk to people. They just want to walk in. They want to check in their bag online. They don't want to. They want to actually tag their bag themselves. Like, I'm just going with our business. But what I've realized is this idea that people want that connection. And if you have 0 touch points with a human being throughout your travel journey, I'll just relate it back to my product. When you do have an interaction, if it's not exactly what you thought it should be, it ends up feeling negative, right? And I think, so to me, that's the misconception. If I'm understanding the question correctly, is we're losing sight of. You can force all this digital and make the best experiences possible through the digital space, but if we lose this ability to kind of navigate how to have relationships and how to sort of understand each other differently or get things from each other in either face-to-face contact, then I think you're losing sight of the opportunity to win. So maybe that answers the question. Sorry, Jason, I tried. I don't know.
There's no way I could do that either. Okay. So that was great. So, Juliet, so we've spoken about a few like tactical activities, things that we're doing, for example, personalization, translation as well. How would you describe your kind of like dream state employee experience? And how do you know you're delivering on that?
My dream state will always be, no matter where I work, that everybody can show up being their true, authentic selves. And that is an easy thing to say, but a hard thing to do, because that means changing mindsets for other individuals that may not necessarily are on the same journey that I want us to be on, or refuse to be on that journey. The world has changed so much, and I think, where there's so much research about authentic leadership styles and showing up as you are, because, everybody else is taken, right? So you've just got to show up as who you are, and some days you'll get it right and some days you'll get it wrong, and that's okay as well. But I think creating that sense of belonging is definitely the way that I want our organisation to be.
Yeah, and actually I think Emma said yesterday around like how fundamentally what's needed of a leader has changed, and we've actually got a session later from Jenny Field on that topic. So if you want to deep dive on that, there is a session for you later that you can pick up. So I've got time for maybe a couple more questions. Let's see how it goes. Do you, actually this is for you, Adib, so do you have, no break.
For the Jason question?
No sleep.
No.
Do you have any advice for an organization at the start of their journey of bringing together internal and external comms and marketing and data teams to drive customer experience?
Yeah, sure. I think what I've learned is the true sort of approach is like storytelling. Right? When you've got all these different verticals coming together, they all have a remit, right? They're sort of if I'm overseeing, I don't know, comms, or I'm overseeing marketing and I'm not yet together, you've got to sort of look at them and kind of give them the value prop of what it means to work together. People will always want to sort of put their fingerprints on whatever it is. And so having a clear sort of line of sight, a clear vision, a clear understanding of what the end goal looks like and what each person's role is in playing to get to that end goal is incredibly important. And if you don't set it up right from the beginning, it will derail very quickly.
And I know you've got a slightly different experience, but linked to the question, how you mentioned actually you started to kind of like change the structure to better work for the people experience. What are some of the things that you did at David Lloyd, or things that you think people should be doing to move it in the right direction?
Yeah, look, we did a lot of alignment to really assess actually where my people function sits in with the organisation and what the expectations of our team members are aligned to the department that I lead on. Interestingly enough, communications, employee experience and communications are linked. They are one department within my team, so they're not separated out. So internal communications sits within the people function when it's related to employee experience, and then anything else related to the member experience sits in marketing. So they work very closely together, hand in hand, but they are separate entities, because I think the informal style that we use internally with our team members is maybe not the same style we use externally to our members.
There's some duality there between how I feel at Unily and David Lloyd, and maybe that's why we work together. But like there's a level of like how you create that culture, the informality, the team versus like this is how now we deliver for our customers. And I think it's great that you've got that story. We've unpacked a lot on this panel, from CX to EX to the link between EX and CX to digital to culture. So it's been a good one. Thank you so much to my panelists. Please give them a round of applause.